Okay, we're good. So essentially, in the scanning part, we'll be learning about the basic scanning, about what the concept wants to deliver to us. Later, we'll be learning on how the TCP communication works from server to client, or maybe server to server, or maybe client to client. And then we'll learn the methodologies of scanning. So why is this important? Is that as a cybersecurity enthusiast, we must also understand the methodologies of hacker also, because our work is like a kind of Tom and Jerry, or a kind of thief police work. So there are no such boundaries or concepts which you can restrict yourself to. And sometimes on the quest to protect your system, you have to go somewhat offensive also. You have to think about on how the hacker would think, and based on that you have to either implement a system. Also depends upon how your system and what service we are providing. And then later we'll be seeing on some of the scanning techniques which I've implemented, along with those tools also. And lastly, I would be focusing on the mitigation techniques, because I want to give a holistic view of the scanning. So, what all exploitations generally are happening, I would be concentrating on one of those, and how, in general, servers or routers or devices, or maybe IoT devices, on how they can be protected with that. Okay, so what is essentially scanning? So scanning is a set of procedures for identifying live hosts, maybe ports, or also services. It also involves some of the operating system and architecture of the target system, identifying vulnerabilities, threats in the network. Okay, so network scanning is used to create a profile for target organization. So on our end, we are still in the scanning phase of a company. So we want to get the maximum info possible to understand on how the services and their internal network is working. Okay, so I would in the later phase, I would also give an example on how I had participated in one of the competitions, and I would explain on how quickly the hackers can exploit our firmwares of Wi-Fi. So let's get continue with this. Scanning also refers to collecting more information using complex and aggressive reconnaissance techniques. So we have seen in the reconnaissance part, where my other friend or colleague had mentioned, we have two types of active and passive. So active is kind of something which is too technical, and we are investing a lot of tools and gathering information, while passive depends upon having a common sense or common knowledge, or trying to get other things from the public record, and not involving too much technical knowledge. Okay, so scanning a network takes what was learned in the reconnaissance, as I said just earlier, and also applies it to examine what is in the network. Because from this company to company, from the architecture to architecture, and from services to services, the whole network architecture is interdependent or maybe variable also. So we cannot say the architecture for say Hangyo ice creams and for the Amazon company would be the same, because the type of services they are providing are totally different. Hangyo ice cream would require a less amount of database. They would need a less amount of cloud hosting, and and since it's a middle level of multinational, it's not that much advanced as Amazon, and it does not have that many subdomains or services to there. So they can be like a whole system can be hosted online with one Docker container or something like that. Whereas Amazon have to think a different strategy in order to secure their systems from different type of attacks. So since the types of services they are providing are very different, let's take an example of Amazon, where they are trying to perform different uh, activities in their application, like the one phase would say you're buying a product. So one phase would be just browsing through the Amazon page and selecting. Next phase would be the part where you're processing your transfer money, or money transfer is happening. And the third phase would be some page where you can track your delivery system. So let's say a hacker is attacking a system where it is selecting, where it is attacking the subdomains or the domains which are involving yourself browsing through the items on their web page. Now, let's say if all the services were connected to that, obviously they'll be connected because it's a sequential transaction. And if the services were connected and intertwined in one Docker container, then you would be massively backslashed, because you would have depleted all your services only through one attack. So in order to preserve your services and not let hacker exploit all your services at one time, you can rather containerize all your services one by one. So let's say if hacker attacked your one of the services of the page where you could browse, your transaction and delivery page would be still intact because they are running on different services and they are secured in different containers. So that type of strategies or that type of novel ideas we need to come up with once we are done with scanning. Later, if we see in this phase, we can apply tools like ping sweeps, or understand the network mapping on how the routers are working inside the networks, and a simple network management protocol sweepers and vulnerabilities scanners to look for any potential attacks points on the targets discovered through the reconnaissance phase, which we have done earlier. So in this phase, we are looking to gain more information, such as say device's name, on what web servers they are using, on what operating systems they are using, on what type of softwares are installed in their systems, and normal things like IP addresses, and whether they are live or not, and some accounts if we could get from passive reconnaissance. And that again depends on how their database is secured. Then in the later stage, we have to gain this information and try to build upon that privilege. So now we'll see on what are our main targets or objectives which we want to achieve through this scanning. Okay, so our first would be to identify the live hosts on a network. Then we would want to identify open or closed ports. We also want some information regarding operating system. Also, I guess I missed writing, but we also need some information on the web servers, because we know that like there are some GTFO pins exploits where you come to know about a web server, and you can do either a shell exploit or you can do a web server exploit using that. So next we have to identify the services which are running on the network. Later we have to identify the running processes, because this is a very important thing. Let's say we have 5 processes and we know that one of them is exploitable. So using that vulnerability, we can access the other 4 services as well. Okay, and that also in trivially covers to identify vulnerabilities as well. So this is one the first and foremost basic tools which everyone uses in the scanning phase is Nmap. So Nmap is a very trivial tool which everybody is using. So in that we see that there are 3 types of the basic scan which I came across. So the connect scan. Okay, the connect scan is, instead of writing the raw packets as most of the other scan types do, Nmaps asks the underlying operating system to establish a connection with the target machine and port issuing the connect system call. Okay, so why do we think is this scan important? So anybody knows that? Why do you think connect scan would be important for us? Mm, you can write in the chat. No idea. Okay. So this is what even I didn't know about this, but after some small research, I came to know that this connect scan is generally being used in the systems where they have multiple OS stacked upon, like in Docker systems. So in that type, if you want to get to the bottom of their architecture, this can helps you to get information regarding that. On the bottom line, the most basic operating system which on which others are stacked, we get information regarding that OS. Later, I saw upon the half open scan. So in this, a SYN packet, okay, a SYN packet. I guess everybody has a common idea of computer networks over here. So what is a sync packet and what is acknowledgement which we get from that? So you send a SYN packet here as if you're going to a open real connection. So kind of we are deceiving that, we can say, ethically. So we are trying to mimic a packet over here. So I would say I would rather focus upon that also in the later stage, and then wait for a response. Okay, a SYN or ACK indicates a port whether it is open, or while a reset is indicating of a non-listener. Okay, so this also gives us an idea whether the system is live or not. Okay, so I want to know whether everybody knows about three-way communication in computer networks or not. I mean, that's a very basic idea of on how TCP protocols are working. So, yeah, is everybody having a basic idea of computer networks, right? So, how a TCP connection is working? It's a three-way handshake. Okay, I get a yes. What about others? Okay, nice. Okay. Okay, nice. So the TCP connection is something which is connection oriented, and that's what we wanted to try over here, whether it is live or not, to test whether it is live or not. And the last one is null scan. For my target, it did not prove that much profitable for me for the null scan, but for others, target it might be useful. So test T2, okay, in this sends a null packet to an open port. If there is a port open, it will send that. So if you see a line like T2 R equal to N, that system seems to be support the RFC. Okay, and one of the scans should work against it. If the packet filter sends an ICMP destination prohibited error, Nmap knows that the port is filtered. Okay, so I wouldn't go that much in this because I'm not that much clear as well. But I read that these are the three basic scans, so I thought to perform it and try to get what all I'm able to get in that. So let's see on how the connects can happen for me over here. So the connect scan is identifies the open ports by establishing a TCP handshake with the target. So it's a connection oriented and a three-way handshake protocol. So the command which I used is nmap minus st minus v and minus p minus v, um, minus p minus and the target this thing. Okay, so this IP address is something which I guess we got from the reconnaissance phase. Okay, so doing a simple online DNS search or whois lookup will get the idea of this IP address of their main domain. So I guess that's not the issue. I would like to focus upon what this flags means because your search can be optimized. Okay, so if you just do a nmap, if I just do a nmap and I do my complete domain search, it takes like around a lot of time for me to search. Okay, even these searches kind of take a relatively more time than other phases. So I rather decided, as said to me by my instructor, that you do the scans beforehand and try to demo that or put the screenshots in. So I have done that. So I would try to emphasis on the fact on why these flags are important, so that you can optimize your search on using these flags. So this let's talk about this st flag. So anybody knows why this minus st flag is used? Yeah, yeah, correct. So it's something TCP connect. It's related to that itself. So it's like I would just brush up on that point again. So connect scan uses the system call of that same name to scan machines. Okay, rather than relying on raw packets as most of the other methods do. Okay, so it is usually used by some unprivileged Unix users, and I have seen that these are being used against IPv6 targets using some SYN scans, which does not work in other scans. Okay, so in that case, Connect scan is being profitable for us. Let's see on what minus V flag is doing. So anybody knows about that? V hyphen V flag. Yeah, verbose. Yeah. So it's not version. It's not exactly version, but it's like verbosity. So it's basically increases the verbosity level, causing Nmap to print more and more possible information from your target. Okay. So it shows the open ports at that time. Okay. It even estimates our completion time. And try to scan in best possible, try to optimize it to best possible level. Okay, so in the saved time, you can rather do twice or thrice scan to understand the live and maintenance of their network. Okay, so in that sense, Connect scan is happening, and obviously this minus, I mean hyphen p hyphen flag is omitting the first and last IP address of a subnet. So in that way, we are covering the whole range of this domain. So let's see about half open scan. So this turns out to be rather very verbose or in detail. Okay. So let's see half open scan, otherwise known as the stealth scan. Like it's completely stealth your system and try to get more and more information. Used to scan the target in a stealthy way by not completing the TCP handshake by abruptly resetting the communication. Okay. So one idea or sense you could get from not completing a TCP handshake is that this is a kind of not exactly UDP, I would say, but kind of UDP, a connection less oriented, which your main focus is to send packets and to test. It's not like we want to see on how the packets are being acknowledged also. Okay. So that was the main motive behind this half open scan, which is there here. So minus the command which I used is nmap minus ss minus v and the IP address of the main domain. So minus v again is for the verbosity which I mentioned, and minus ss. So anybody knows, like you can guess now what is minus ss, right? So it's about the stealth. Okay, so this is far and away the most popular scan I have seen. Okay, and type, because it is fast way to scan ports of the most popular TCP protocol. Okay, so we have seen that it is not completing the TCP protocol, and we are getting a lot of information. Let's also see that, see, we have it is even stating the fact that the port is either filtered or open. So we can see that HTTP protocol is open here. The port is open, so we can exploit that port using some GTFO bins or maybe other exploits which we know. A standard HTTP exploit would also work, and so it is stealthier than Connect Scan, and it works against all the functional TCP stacks. Unlike some special purposes scan like FinScan, which I am not that much focusing on today. So the last one was this null scan. So I just want to give a complete idea of that. That's why I put it. I did not get much idea on that either. Not to mention, I also got some idea of SMTP protocol, which is being worked in their system with this. You see the main domain is here, and you can see your hostingaccount.com. This is a type of SMTP service which is being used in their system. So let's see the null scan works by sending TCP packets with no flags set to target. Okay, no flags. Open ports do not respond, while closed port respond with a reset packet. So we come to know which are open and which are closed. So this minus SN flag, okay, so these are some special purpose scan types that are used to adapt to sneaking past firewalls. Okay, various different types of firewalls to exploit the systems behind them. Okay. Unfortunately, they rely on target behavior, and there might be some involving of honeypots there, and we might be stuck there. But there is nothing to lose in that as such. So it's just a basic scan, and you can terminate. And I don't guess, I have never even encountered a situation where through a null scan your system, the hacker system, can be exploited. Okay. So this kinds of conclude my Nmap part over here. So let's see about some scanning part using some passive OS fingerprinting and banner grabbing. Okay. So when you want to check whether a domain or a subdomain or any of the services are live or not, generally what people do is throw a ping command, obviously, and we come to know these two parameters from there: TTL and TCP window size. Okay, so I mostly everybody would have tried ping command, right? It's a very basic kind of command. Okay, so TTL is short for time to live. So on how much far your packet could travel to the nearest router or a DNS service to fetch the web page from the server which you pinged. Okay, so and why is it important to analyze the TTL and TCP window size is that we come to know on what operating system it is running on. So here I have just mentioned three, which are the most predominant operating systems being used by tech guys. But there are many more vulnerable virtual machines as well, where their TTL and TCP window size are kind of configured in that way. Okay, so we see here that for a Linux system, the time TTL for a packet is 64. I forgot the units. It's kind of milliseconds, I guess. And the TCP window size is 5840 bytes. And for Windows, we see that the TTL is also high and the TCP window size is also high. And for the Cisco router, it's less. It's kind of 2 power 8 bytes. It's some 255 bytes. And the window size is also in and around 4128. So that's kind of, with this type of statistic, you come to know on what operating system your targets services are running on. Next, we come upon vulnerability scanning. So with this scanning, I came to know that these ports are there. Okay. So if nothing else easier works, my only task would be to uh, exploit the open ports or the services running on it. So am I clear on that? Uh, are you with me? Okay. Okay, I see one yes. What about others? Okay. Okay. So till then, that would be my last resort, because we know that exploiting a port and some services are like HTTP would rather take and would be tedious work, but getting an easier vulnerability to exploit in my future would be definitely a efficient way to exploit the whole system rather than concentrating on a port or one of the services. So we'll see on what vulnerability scanning is. So it's mainly automated tools are used for this purpose. Okay, so in this case, I have used Ghost Eye. I'll be saying about it. It's an open source tool. So these automated scanners scan the target to find out vulnerabilities or weaknesses in your target organization. Okay, so it's pretty common information. Uh, Vulnerabilities include application vulnerabilities, configuration vulnerabilities, network or OS vulnerabilities as well. So some examples include OS is not updated. So we have seen recently that Windows has declared that Windows 7 is no longer in their jurisdiction. So any system being exploited in that, any user using Windows 7 and getting experience or exploitation will no longer be held under the jurisdiction of Windows. So that's what they have declared. So that is what something which is alarming for us, that we must keep our system updated because with every update we see that there is a security update as well, not in the software point of view only. So we are see that default password is used. This is something which many administrators or common people working in the office who are not a tech guy come or face across. Okay, generally we see that some domains are having some subdomains like say, let's take an example of hangyo.in. Okay, so hangyo.in/admin, that would just it might redirect you directly to their Django administration page where they are handling their database, and the default password may be admin. Sometimes it might happen that /admin would lead to its Postgres database. I have seen such domains. Okay, such vulnerable domains I have seen. And administrators are also not that wise in keeping their credential as admin at least. And sometimes it might happen that they put the username admin and password is something other than admin, but it is I was easily able to exploit that using John to repair and some basic tools. Then plain text protocols, we know about that vulnerable protocols running, which will be used, which we saw in the Nmap scan, and which might be exploited if we don't use any vulnerability scanning. So some of the famous tools are GhostEye, Nessus, and Acunetics. So I have used GhostEye over here. So what is some information about a GhostEye tool I want to put? So it's kind of a reconnaissance tool. It was mostly designed for it, and then some features were added. So on this, I don't know if you are able to see URL over here, but I can give you the URL later. It's an open source tool and available on GitHub as well. So I have taken from there only. So while doing this, using this tool, I was able to find that there was a clickjacking vulnerability in my target system. So some information about this vulnerability I had to find because I was this vulnerability was detected. So it's kind of a UI readdress attack. Okay, redress attack. So it is where an attacker uses multiple transparent or opaque layers to trick a user into clicking a button. So it's kind of a phishing something kind of thing, or hijacking your system. So the attacker is hijacking clicks meant for that page and routing it to some another page which he likes. Okay, so kind of the workflow of your documentary is not going according to what the developer had planned, while the hacker is hijacking that process. Okay, so in this similar technique, keystrokes can also be hijacked. Now this is one another how to say, it's another vulnerability which does not often is given enough threat, but we see that if the keystrokes can be reverse engineered, your passwords easily can be exploited with this technique. So with a carefully crafted combination of style sheets, iframes, and text boxes, a user can lead to believe that they are typing in that password to their email or bank account, but they're instead typing an invisible frame controlled by an attacker. Okay, so this is something which we generally don't see with our naked eyes, or we don't realize that it would be happening in a system, but it does happen. So this is a screenshot of that part where I was able to see their high vulnerability appear. So we see that here I have seen, I was able to understand that they have a Apache 2 server running. So any or all type of vulnerabilities related to Apache servers can be exploited to get into their system. And X-frame options header is missing. This is, I have not explored this as of now, but and it even says clickjacking is plausible, and this site is vulnerable to clickjacking. So this is what I came to know, but I would show one more thing later. So on how it is being exploited, let us just give a glance to that as well. So for example, imagine an attacker who builds a website, okay, that has a button on it. It says click here for a free iPod. Now everybody is extremely excited to put your to click the button there. So as a cybersecurity people, we are kind of cautious. Okay, we get alert with these things. But let's say an employee is working in an office with an account department. He does not know much about this phishing and this kind of click jacking exploits or vulnerabilities which are put in your software system. So uh, the impact of just one employee pushing that, I mean, clicking that button can lead to exposure of lot of surface area in that network. Am I clear on that? So, did you understand on what emphasis I'm putting on? So, on how the risk can be, escalated just by one employee using this. So we see that, however, on top of the web page, the attacker has loaded an iframe with our mail account and lined up exactly all delete all messages button on the free iPod button. So actually, we want to press that victim iPod, and but behind that there is some delete all messages. So it's kind of something which is obfuscation of our documentary, which we don't exactly want that. We never want that to happen. Okay, so this was one thing which I came across. So Nmap has provided us with a plethora of exploits inbuilt with them with the extension NSE. Many will be knowing about this. So if you just try to list that, I guess I forgot the command, but it was something like uh, nmap and then user slash nmap slash scripts, and then using a pipeline you can grep with some exploit like ssh dns or something. So you will get a bundle of exploits which nmap is providing to you in that service, say dns service. If you want, there are 4 to 5 exploits. If you want icmp exploits, there are 2 to 3 in that also. So this took around 40 seconds for me to check over here on how the clickjacking is working for my domain. So it said that SMTP service was closed at that time while HTTP was open, which was also confirmed before, which I showed you guys. So see here, it also mentioned that Xframe options is not configured. Okay, so this is something which will be vulnerable to clickjacking attacks. Okay, so this is there. So this is just which I wanted to say that Nmap also has such type of scripts. So if you don't know, this is something. So network diagrams. Okay, so this also comes under a part of scanning to understand the network architecture. So in this, I have, I had to research a little bit, but I was able to come up with a script here. So I used what exactly we want is we just want to get a overall and holistic idea of how the network is being used. Okay, what domains or subdomains are put here and there, and what IP addresses or on what servers they are being hosted. So in this, I just used KP library. This is a library which was plugged in Python 3 package, I guess. Okay, so just a small. I wanted to try this thing on my college subdomains. So since I'm from IIT Dharwad, we have many subdomains, and main domain is iitdh.ac.in. Similarly, a CDC, our career development cell website would go something like cdc.iitdh.ac.in. Similarly, our fests website would go something like parsec.iitdh.ac.in, and so on. So there are some 8 to 9 subdomains which I tried, and it tried to map all those subdomains and how the packets are being fetched from there, and I was able to get this. If you want, I can share that script also. It's not that much big, but it's like kind of 8 to 10 lines, but it you just need to get some idea on how the hosts and commands are working. So we see that this was the main domain, okay, of my college, and we see that one of the subdomains is being hosted by NKN Core, NW NKN Core Network in India. So I don't even know anything about my college. but I still know that my college is getting internet bandwidth from National Knowledge this nation or whatever. I don't remember the abbreviation, but NCAN. Another, I see that my college is getting bandwidth from BSNL people. So this kind of information is something which we don't easily get, but can be fetched using this small thing. Even I got their IP addresses of their DNS server over there. So kind of potential DDoS can be executed with this information if we have. So this is just idea on how this I was able to find using a Python script. So this is just on this is basically the fifth step of our hacking, which says on how to remove your digital footprints. So it's kind of that. So basic idea would be to use VPN or Tor browsers, which use tunneling and try to process your packet through different routes which cannot be traced back. So that's the main idea. I guess that's clear. That's what the main idea of preparing proxy states. Lastly, the mitigations on how to keep your system secure. Okay, so one would be some configuring your IDS and firewall to block probes. Keep firewall routers IDS firmware update. Run port scanners to verify the security of your target. Add rules in firewall restricting access to the ports, and disable ICMP based scanning at firewall, because this would be the most potential, and it can cause a huge risk. So these are some things which every network administrator should keep in mind. Uh, Running and making your system up is easy, but securing becomes a pretty tough task. So, till now, was anything something which was there anything which was new to you guys, or you learned something new from today? Okay, I get one yes. The null scan. Okay, nice. Happy to hear that. So, lastly, before closing, I just want to, shed some light on one of the projects which I did. It was this project, fake packet generation and detection in computer networks. So it kinds of sounds exciting, and that's what we have done here. So I and one of my friends, we did as a part of our R&D project in our college, along with one professor. Although he did not help anything, that's what IIT professors do. They leave everything on students, and we had to do. So I just want to give a gist of what we have done over here. It's not much, it's kind of 3 minutes, but I just want to give an idea on how we exploited systems. So a basic idea, okay, are you able to see the whole screen? Okay, okay. So just a second. Yeah, I know whether. Okay, okay, let's do it this way. So okay, so first of all, I would give some background on what happened in this project. So I had an option to take a R&D project, and I was going through the projects, and I found that this had some alignment with cybersecurity, and I was excited to take this project. Now our professor gave me a research paper which had pure literature and nothing technical in that. Okay, and it just had some basic definitions of tunneling and mimicking, and some protocols and something which you already know. It's not something new, that had nothing technical to do. Now our main target was fake packet detection, generation and detection. So the first initial phase would be whether you can do it. Say I am here at my place, you are at your place, and you are able to penetrate in my system, or vice versa. We tried to mimic that, but we did not have that many resources right now. So we tried to restrict ourselves to a local area network. So this is done completely in a frame in your Wi-Fi or your mobile network or something like that. So that's kind of disclaimer. And then our sir did not help in anything. Okay, so this is something which was done by me and my friends, and one of my friend. So what essentially I have done here is that I took two virtual machines. One is, I guess, are you able to see Ubuntu 64-bit is one system. Let's say it is attacker, and clone of Ubuntu 64-bit is the target. Okay, I want to show that in a secured network, I can send fake packets. I can generate fake packets from the attacker side and put it in the network of the attacker side. And this is something which is not focused upon much, but can be exploitable at a huge extent. Okay, so that is the more kind of that was the more motivation to do that. So I'm we used Scapy. Scapy is the library which we use to make the packets. Okay, so I will show you on how it is done. So first I'm identifying the IP address of attacker, then I am identifying IP address of the target, and then I'm generating fake packets now. So the fake packets is done using Python library. Okay, the Scapy which I mentioned. So here are the commands. So I am specifying source and destination. I am making some TCP packets. I am setting some default time to live, and I'm adding some destination port, exactly a payload, and then I'm sending it in a loop. I'm sending it in a loop. It's kind of infinite loop. So I just want to send packets and see on how it is working. Okay. So, okay. So see now, okay. I messed up. Sorry for the mess up. Okay. So we were at the phase where I was able to generate packets just before sending. So I just want to emphasize on that one idea where there are two types of traffics over here. One is whitelist traffic and one is blacklist traffic. Okay, so the whitelist traffic is something which your system takes it. It assumes that it is a secure traffic and lets it into the network, while blacklist traffic is something which you can add to your systems and let your system know that this person is blacklisted for me and don't accept any of the traffics from that. It's kind of blocking someone from your network. Okay. So the first part of this video would be the whitelist traffic, which is happening right now. Oh shit. Sorry guys. So I don't know how this works. I guess spacebar was working, but it does not work. So so here in the second system I am using Scapy and Snort. Okay, Snort is another detection tool in networks which you can use. If you want more information, I can send you in my research paper which I wrote. I can send you, you can look into more details in that. Okay, I just wanted to give you something new which you have not seen before. Okay, so here I'm using Scapy for detection as well as Snort for detection. Okay, and I'll be sending from the attacker side packet, and let's see what are the effects on the target side. Here the packets are being sent. Okay, so I interrupted that. Okay, so I have totally sent some 272 packets. Now let's see what happened on attacker target side. So you see that I was able to detect my packets in Scapy. I was also able to detect my packets in Snort, which says that there was a attempted information leak, but it says that it's a TCP packet. Okay, fine, it's a whitelist traffic, so I'll allow it. Okay, that's what the network thinks, and that's what it has done. Here you can see I am confirming the IP addresses of that I have got received the packet exactly from the attacker only. Now comes the part of blacklist traffic. So this is a kind of mitigation technique which you want your you don't want any attacker to come into your system. So this is the step where you block it. Okay. So this took a hell lot of time, and there is no much information regarding this on internet, and obviously our sir did not help in any of this. He was saying to see in the literature research paper which had nothing to do with this, and we had to go down to the source code of the snot and try to configure that. So it was that much rudimentary work which we had to do. So in here you see that we made a file called blacklist rules. So in blacklist rules is a file where I'll be adding the IP addresses of my uh, person which I want to block. So I'm doing it right now. So I added the attacker's IP address now in my system to protect myself. Okay, so that is done. Now since I have added him in the blacklist rules, again to test that we'll be sending packets now. Okay, so I'm sending packets now. And in this case, I just sent 20 packets. As you can see, I have written here send B star 2. So it's kind of 20 packets only, because if I had sent in a loop, it was taking a lot of time and I had to make this demo. So it would quite be cumbersome to show all those. So I just sent 20 packets over here. So we'll wait for that. Okay. So we are checking whether our detection system is on. So I turned on both Scapy as well as Snot, and I'm sniffing those packets over here. So once I sent this 20 packets, I'll see on what detection effect was made over here. We see that in the Scapy, it did not show much effect. The whitelist traffic and the blacklist traffic was showing me the same results. But if you go in Snot, where I externally added in the source code, I saw that I was getting a potential packets blacklisted, which showed that these packets tried to enter my network, but I successfully blacklisted the attacker's fake packet in Snot. So that is something which was my R&D project. So I just wanted to give an idea on this networking or scanning phase of my project. So thank you. So this was happy to give something new to everyone, if not everything you know. So how was overall my session? Like anyone wants to ask any questions, or did you like it, or any open suggestions? I'm open to anything. Okay, thanks, Srinath. What about others? I hope like everyone learned something from this or got an idea on how the scanning is working, and like explore this phase also. Okay, okay. Thank you for all your wishes. So okay, so this was from sure. I can send you my PPT. I'll send you my PPT. I can send. So this video which I showed at the end was a YouTube video which is on my channel. I just uploaded for if anybody wants to get an idea. So I'll attach that with the PPT and send. I'll also put my link to the paper which I wrote. So that is pretty detailed and it is very professionally written. So if you want to pursue that in our colleges also, you're free to do that. uh, we have not published that work yet. We don't intend to publish that because uh, I, I I felt that there was some more machine learning techniques which I could use, but since my instructor was not at all supportive, we have planned to drop that R&D, and rather I would focus on my internship and other works. So that's it from my side, guys. So thank you for attending, and I would be sending this recording link also if you want, if you missed any part. Okay, so thank you, guys.